2014 HSC Mathematics General 2. Let's go down to question maybe number 2. A measurement of 72 centimeters is increased by 20%, and then the result is decreased by 20%. So when it says increased by 20%, we're going to get this number and add 100% to it. If it says decreased by 20%, we're going to subtract that 20% from 100. So 100 take away 20%. So if it's a decrease, you start off at 100, you subtract 20. If it's an increase, you start off at 100 and you add 20. So what is the new measurement correct to the nearest centimeter? Alright, so that's going to be 72 times 100 plus 20, which is 120%. Yes? Yeah. Times 80%. 100 take away 20 is 80%. So 72 times 120% times 80% gives you 69.12. Of course, closest to the nearest centimeter would be 69 centimeters. Okay, so that's the way you do that one. That's what it is. Okay, the diagram shows the graph of an equation. Which one of the following equations does the graph best represent? So let's go through them firstly. If it's on x, don't look at the plus ones, don't look at the 3's. If it's on x, this is called a hyperbola. If it's to the power of x, so the x is on the power, this is called an exponential. If it's x squared, this is called a parabola. And if it's x cubed, it's called a cubic. How do they look like? Hyperbola looks something like that. An exponential looks something like that. A parabola looks something like that, a happy face. And a cubic looks something like that. So, of course, which one of the following does this diagram represent? It is a parabola. So it's got nothing to do with the 3, it's got nothing to do with the plus 1. You're only meant to look at your x. If it's on x, hyperbola. Power of x, exponential. Looks like that. Parabola looks like that. And then a cubic looks like that. Okay? Read that one. Let's do this one. How many kilobytes are there in 2 gigabytes? Okay, so it will go from gigabytes to megabytes to kilobytes. Yep. So if you've already got 2 gigabytes, we want to first get into megabytes, which is 1024. Now, what you need to know, if you can see with all these answers here, they're all bases of 2's. 1024 is actually 2 to the... So 1024 is 2 to the power of 10. So that's going to be 2 to the power of 10 here to get from gigabytes to megabytes. And then again, you need to times it again from megabytes to kilobytes. You got to times by another 1024, which is another 2 to the power of 10. Does that make sense? So 10 plus 10 is 20. So we've got 2, this 2 gigabytes, times 2 to the power of 10. Sorry, 20. Yeah? And then this is the power of 1. Imaginary 1 there. 20 plus 1 to the power of 21. Does that make sense? Index laws, when you multiply, you add the indices. You're dividing, you subtract the indices. A cafe menu has 3 entrees, 5 main courses, and 2 desserts. Ariana is choosing a 3-course meal consisting of an entree, a main course, and a dessert. How many different 3-course meals can Ariana choose? 3 entrees times 5 mains times 2 equals 30. Easy. Which of the following is a graph of this? Now this is asked almost every single year. The best way to look at it again, -2 is called your y-intercept. So the bit that doesn't have an x is called the y-intercept. So where does it cut the y-axis at -2? Not this one, not this one, and this one. So right now we're tossing up between A and D. Then without doing any more calculation, I look at the gradient. The gradient. Now, the gradient I'm not looking for the answer of 2. All I'm looking at is the sign. Is it positive? If it was positive, it would be looking like this, slope to the right. If it was negative, it would be slope to the left. So a positive 2x, that looks like it's a negative. That can't be the answer. The answer is B. A car is bought for $19,990. It will depreciate 18% per annum. Use the declining balance method. What will the salvage value of the car be after 3 years? Declining balance just means depreciation. So you can just use this formula. Does it look familiar? We usually use that as appreciation, which means we use a plus. If you're going to decline, which means you're depreciating, just use a minus. Don't bother using the formula. Don't help. Use this. A car is bought 19,990. 1 minus 18% to the power of 3. And that gives me, so we get 11,021 and 84 cents, which obviously rounds up to 11,020. So good? Move on. Percentage error. This one. The top of the Sydney Harbour Bridge is measured to be 138.4 meters above sea level. What is the percentage error? Percentage error is half of the unit value over original times 100. Now, what's the unit value? If this was just 138 meters, that means it's going up by meters, 1 meter. So it'll be half times 1. But it's not. It says it's 0.4 of a meter, which means that it's actually going up by 0.1. So it's going up by 0.1. So it'll be 138.4, 138.5, 138.6, 138.6. So it's going up by 0.1. So what you want to do to work out the error of measurement, which would be this top bit, you just do a half times 0.1. And then you divide that answer by the original number. 138.4, and you times it by 100. The answer is 0.036. Okay? This is the error in measurement. Error in measurement. So percentage error would just be half times unit value over original. The error in measurement would just be half times unit value. Okay? Simplify. Whenever you're doing these ones, the best way is to do numbers first, and then the letters. Letters. So, what's 6 times a third? That's 2. W4 times W squared. W2 power 2 will become W2 power 6. Why? Because you do 4 plus 2. Not times. 4 plus 2, which is 6. Cancel that. Do that one. Yep, let's do this one. Which expression will give the shortest distance in kilometers between Mount Isa and Tokyo? Okay, 20 degrees south, 140 east, 35 degrees north, 140 east. Because these two are the same, we don't use them. We're going to use 20 degrees south, draw this up. We've got 20 south, and we've got 35 north. What's the whole angle there? Well, 35 plus 20 is 55 degrees. You can see that is already going to be probably this one here. Without doing any more calculations, because you already got the 55, you don't need this, you don't need this, you don't need this. See how simple some questions can be? Okay. In Mattsville, there are on average 8 rainy days in October. Which expression could be used to find the value for the probability that it will rain on 2 consecutive days in October? It will rain. So there's 8 rainy days. The probability of the first rainy day would be an 8 out of 31. If a rainy day has already occurred, how many rainy days are left? Out of 30 days. So the answer is A. Let's do this one. This one is a hard one as well sometimes. A child who weighs 14 kilograms needs to be given 15 milligrams of paracetamol for every 2 kilograms of body weight, which means if they're 14, they need to be given 7 doses of that. 14 divided by 2. Every 10 mils of a particular medicine contains 120 milligrams of paracetamol. What is the correct dosage of this medicine for the child? So I need to first work out how much paracetamol I need for this child. That's 7 times 15. What's 7 times 15? 105 milligrams of paracetamol. And it says that for 120 milligrams, I'm going to have 10 mils of this particular medicine. So 120 milligrams, I'm meant to have 10 mils. But I don't want 120, I only want 105. So I've got to get this 120 into, the easiest way to always think about it is to get into 1. So we're going to divide this by 120, divide this by 120. You got this into 1 milligram, which is going to be a very small number. So 0.08333, etc. And then how do I get 1 into 105? Times by 105 times this number that you just have in your calculator by 105 should give you 8.75. You would already know these two answers would be wrong because 120 is for 10, you only had 105, so this is too big, this is too big. So you're tossing up between these two, and I think it was safe to say it couldn't be 5.6 because you can see that's half of this. So 8.75 would have been the answer without doing more calculations. Alright. Yeah, let's do this one. Jazz has 2 bags of apples. Bag A contains 4 red apples and 3 green apples. Bag B contains 3 red apples and 1 green apple. Jazz chooses an apple from one of the bags. Which tree diagram could be used to determine the probability that Jazz chooses a red apple? So 2 bags of apples. Bag A and then bag B. Okay, so bag A is obviously a 0.5% chance, and then, yeah. Alright, bag A. 4 red apples plus 3 green apples. 4 plus 3, 7 apples altogether. 3 plus 1, there's 4 apples altogether. Okay, so there's a 50-50% chance of getting a bag A and a bag B. After that, if you've chosen bag A, you've got a 4 out of 7 chance of getting a red, 4 red apples out of 7 apples. If you've chosen bag B, you have a 3 out of 4% chance of getting a red. So the answer would be A. This one here would be wrong. Why? It says 7 out of 11, but there isn't 11 apples in bag A. There's only 7 apples already, so that doesn't make any sense. Same thing with this one. You can again say this doesn't make any sense because you're actually picking out a red first, and you're picking out a red again. You're picking out 2 reds, but you don't want to pick out 2 reds. all you want to do is pick out one red. So that doesn't make any sense. Same thing with this one. You're going to pick out two reds. You don't want to pick out two reds. You only want to pick out a red. So this is a red in this case, or a red in this case. Whereas this is a red and a red. Alright, in a household of 4, everyone misses that fact. Each member uses an average of 13 minutes of hot water per day. The household uses a 9 kilowatt hot water unit. The electricity is charged at 11.9 cents per kilowatt hours, which just means get the kilowatts times it by hours when the hot water unit is being used. What is the electricity cost of hot water in 1 week? Okay, so 13 minutes of hot water per day times by 4. 13 times by 4 gets you 52 minutes each day. Each day. Times by 7 gives you 364 minutes each week. But I can't use minutes. This is hours. So I've got to divide that by 60. And I get 6.066 hours in a week. Yep, we've got the hours. Tick, done. Times it by kilowatts. Times this by 9. Now you've got kilowatt hours. Times this by 11.97. So that gives you 54.6 here. Times by 11.97 gives you 653.562 cents, which of course will be closest to $6.54. Well, that's cents. So $6.54. Okay, now let's do another one. Yeah, let's do these tables. A table of future value interest factors is shown. A certain annuity involves making equal contributions of $25,000 into an account every 6 months for 2 years. An interest rate of 4% per annum. Based on information, what is the future value of this annuity? Okay, so every 6 months, that means every half a year. So 4% you don't use. You use 2%. So you got to divide that by 2 to get 2%. So right now we're in this column. Then we're in this column. 2%. Right, that's the number of periods. You've got 2 years. How many half years are there in 2 years? You times that by 2 gets you 4 half years. Or 4 periods. Yep. Where do they both meet? That's the interest rate per period. Times that by 25,000. And that's it. Which gives you, C. Okay. Let's do another one. Yeah, let's try these ones. These ones are a bit confusing. Heather's car uses fuel at a rate of 6.6 litres per 100 kilometres. The way I usually write it is 6.6 litres equals 100k. For long distance driving, and 8.9 L equals 100k. For short distance driving, she used the car to make a journey of 560 kilometers, which included 65 kilometers of short distance driving. So the rest was long distance driving. Yep. Approximately how much fuel did Heather's car use on the journey? Well, the first thing we need to work out is how much did she actually use for short distance and how much did she actually use for long distance. So what's 560 minus 65? Gives you 495 Ks. That means, gives you 495 here for long distance, whereas for short distance we only said it was 65 Ks. Yep. Again, 100, how do I get it to 495? divide by 100, and then times by 495. You're starting to pick that up now. So you divide this by 100. Why? Because you get that into 1. Once it's the number 1, how do I get 1 into 495? You times by 495. So, pretty much, you just start to memorize, divide this by 100, then times by 495. How many liters does that give us? So that should be that, and then times 495, 32.67 liters for 495 kilometers. Let's do this one. How do I get this into the number 1? I divide by 100. So you can stop doing it on this side. You just start doing it on here. You go divide this one by 100, then you times by 65. Gives you 5.785. Add 5 with 32. 7 looks like it's going to be close up to 38. Okay. Bearings. The following information is given about the locations of 3 towns, X, Y, and Z. X is due east of Z. So that means, if I was not to look at these diagrams for a second, if X is due east of Z, that means if I drew that, can you see X is on the west of Z? So that wouldn't be right. I'll leave Z there, and I draw X here now. Can you see that X is on the east of Z? So that's where east would be. So that one's going to look like that. So you already can cross that one out. See how I would not look at these first? I do it myself. And I don't cross this one out. Then I compare. I compare this and this, and I go, okay, so they both have 60 degrees. So pretty much this one is not going to help me so much. Because I can already tell me, it already gives me the answer here, 60 and 60. So what I'm more interested in is this 95 and 145, and how that's going to work. So X is on a bearing of 145 degrees from Y. X is on a bearing of 145 degrees from Y. That means if I have Y, I need to draw compass bearings on that. Yes, and on that. It's telling me that from here to here has to be 145 degrees. That's what it's saying. Okay? Now, which one's going to give me 145 degrees here? Is it going to be the 145 or 95? It's a bit confusing, but let's work it out. If that's 60 degrees, we know that always with bearings we do alternate angles. So then that bit there is going to be 60 degrees. And that's going to be the same here. If that's 60, then that's got to be 60. Right? Now what you've got to ask yourself is, what's 145? Let me just double check it. 145, X is Y is on a bearing. Yep. So, what's 145 take away 60? That gives you about 85 degrees. So you got to think to yourself, does this angle here look like it's about 85 degrees? 85 degrees. 85 degrees. Think about it. If this was 60, is this angle here 85 degrees? Well, if you're saying yes, it is going to be 85 degrees, think about it. 85 degrees is close to 90 degrees. That means this angle here had to pretty much be looking like that. Almost a right angle. So this doesn't make any sense. Whereas if this was 60 and this is whole thing is 95, that means this remaining bit is only 35 degrees. And that makes sense because that looks like about 45 degrees anyway. So 35 degrees and 45 degrees pretty close, so therefore that would be the answer. That would still give you an answer of 145. 145, watch this, 145 plus 35 is what? 180 degrees. And you can see that makes sense because that's a whole straight line. Whereas if I went back up here again, if that whole thing's 145 plus 85, that goes beyond 180 degrees. So that doesn't make sense there. So there's a few ways to see it. So it's either the straight line or just by a bit of logic there, 85 degrees is a bit tricky. So this one doesn't make any sense. The answer's going to be C. Alright, let's try this one. Oh no. Is there any more? Oh, no. That's the last multiple choice. So the last one being the hardest one. Let's finish off this one. A grain silo is made up of a cylinder with a hemisphere, which is half a sphere on top. The outside of the silo is to be painted. What is the area? If the outside is to be painted, it's essentially asking you for the surface area. So, what's the surface area of a cylinder? It is pi r squared. Well, it's 2 pi r squared, but because I don't have two circles, I only have the bottom circle, the top is a hemisphere, I only use pi r squared. That's that bit there. Yep. Plus 2 pi r h. That's this bit here. That's the surface area of the cylinder. Plus surface area of a hemisphere. Now, the surface area of a sphere is 4 pi r squared. So for a hemisphere, it will obviously be 2 pi r squared. Half of 4 pi r squared, 2 pi r squared. So let's put everything in. Radius is only 24. We'll start halfway. So it's going to be 24, sorry, it's going to be pi times 24 squared plus 2 pi 24 times height, which is 30. That's this bit done and this bit done. Yep, we will agree with that. Plus this one, 2 times pi times my radius, which is still going to be 24 squared. That should give me the area that's required to be painted. So the silo is actually open at the bottom. It's not actually closed. If it's not open, that means we've got to get rid of this, get rid of this. It's only going to be the curved area, 2 pi r h, plus the hemisphere, which gives you 8143 meters squared. Okay, hopefully that helps.